I stepped into the novel to save the suffering second male lead. After completing the mission, he begged me to stay. In the following years, we got married and became the model couple in everyone's eyes. But then, the female lead suddenly returned to the country. The man lying next to me began to be distracted frequently, and there was often a strange scent of perfume on him. I just asked a question, and he impatiently rebuked me. Don't be so suspicious. After all, you can't go back anyway. Chapter 1. Burton finished speaking and immediately realized he had said the wrong thing. He turned around and tightly held my hand in the darkness. Sharon, that's not what I meant. I didn't respond, my heart feeling as if it had been thrown into water, sore and swollen. The air fell silent for a moment, and Burton bent down, patiently wiping away my tears. Don't be angry, okay? I still didn't speak. Burton's kiss gently came close, his hand slipping under my clothes. I knew what he wanted to do, but I simply didn't want to cooperate, pushing him away forcefully. Sorry, I'm not in the mood. After a few seconds of silence, Burton finally withdrew. Rubbing his forehead, he sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. Since you don't want me to touch you, I'll sleep in the guest room. I covered myself with the blanket, silently nodding. Before leaving, Burton glanced back at me. Sharon, I don't like women who are always suspicious like this, you know that. Since I married you, I will definitely take responsibility for you. As if to emphasize how disappointed he was, Burton sighed heavily. You weren't like this before, what's happened to you now? Having said that, he gently closed the door. Chapter 2. I lay in bed, touching my nose, suppressing the urge to cry. We all knew what Burton didn't finish saying just now. He simply wanted to say. You came to this world for me, and you stay in this world for me. I am the most important person in this world to you. No matter how you act now, in the end, won't you reconcile with me? Thinking about this, I felt a wave of grievance. In the darkness, time passed slowly. Staring at the ceiling, I felt not an ounce of sleepiness. As if a century had passed, suddenly there was the sound of the keypad unlocking from outside. I was so scared that I jumped straight out of bed. Burton hadn't come out of the guest room since he entered, so who opened the door? I've always been timid, and my palms quickly became sweaty. But the footsteps outside were getting closer and closer. Just when my heart was about to leap out of my throat, the door to the opposite guest room suddenly opened. Ethel? Seemingly afraid of startling me, Burton lowered his voice, but his surprise was still evident. Why are you here? Ethel seemed a bit flustered. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you hadn't deleted my fingerprint. I had nowhere else to go, so I subconsciously came to find you. I really just wanted to try, didn't expect it to actually open. I'm sorry. Sitting in the chaotic darkness, listening to these words, my heart felt like it was being hit by an avalanche. Outside fell silent for half a minute, then Burton struggled slightly to speak. You shouldn't be here, I'm married, she's sleeping in the room across from you. Are you sleeping in separate rooms? There was a hint of joy in Ethel's voice. A chill ran down my spine. Chapter 3. Outside, Burton seemed to finally regain some clarity. He urged Ethel to leave quickly and never come back. But Ethel seemed lost. I really have nowhere else to go, Burton, you said you would always keep a room for me in the house, didn't you? Burton fell silent, his voice becoming hoarse. I'm married. They stood at an impasse outside. After a long time, Ethel's crying grew louder, and Burton sighed softly. Lower your voice, you'll wake Sharon up, and she'll start arguing with me again. My heart ached, and then I heard Burton whisper. Actually, this room was originally meant for you. I knew it. Ethel sounded happy, but my heart sank to the bottom. Both Burton and I were not social people. Before, I didn't understand why he insisted on keeping such a large guest room in the house. When I asked him, he explained it was convenient for his parents to stay occasionally. Now it was clear he was just lying. Tears almost uncontrollably streamed down my face. But outside, Burton only disappointed me further. I heard him say, "Forget it, go in and sleep. Sharon wakes up at 7:40 every day, I'll wake you up at 5, so you won't run into each other." Burton quickly came up with a few sentences to deceive me. But Ethel was still unsatisfied. She said she had a lot to talk to Burton about. "Don't sleep on the couch. I'm begging you, I just want to chat with you." "It really is just chatting, you know I have no friends here, and no one to confide in. I'm practically getting sick from bottling everything up." After Ethel finished speaking, she quietly waited for Burton's answer. And just a wall away, I was also waiting quietly. In the end, Burton compromised and said, "All right, this won't happen again." The last bit of hope in my heart was shattered completely. How absurd it was that in my own home, my husband was lying with another woman. Chapter 4. That night, I thought countless times about pushing open the door across from me, and countless times I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. I recalled the recent events. Since Ethel returned to her country, Burton had changed completely, as if he had been possessed. I couldn't believe that the man full of lies now was the same husband who had respected and loved me for the past 5 years. Thinking back to when I encountered sudden changes in characters while on missions in another world before, the system had informed me that some protagonists in small worlds had too strong a halo. The closer you got to them, the more you would be bound by the plot and do things uncontrollably. So, was it possible that Burton was also influenced by this kind of power? I knew this idea was just wishful thinking, a form of self-comfort. But we had been together for 5 years, I couldn't accept this sudden betrayal. That night, the more I thought, the more chaotic my mind became, and I couldn't sleep no matter what. When it was barely light outside, I finally heard the sound of the door unlocking again. Ethel's voice sounded cheerful. "Burton, let's go eat the soup dumplings at the school gate. I've been abroad for several years, and I miss that taste the most." Burton reluctantly agreed to her request. Soon, they went out. Throughout, Burton never once thought to open this door and check if I had woken up. My heart was swollen with numbness. I slowly sat up, went to the bathroom to freshen up. There was still work to discuss today, so I had to pull myself together. As for the other matters, when I returned in the evening, I would have a good talk with Burton. Chapter 5. After changing clothes, doing my makeup, and curling my hair, I opened the door and went down to the underground parking lot. It was only then that I realized my car was missing. Burton's car had been at the repair shop these days. Usually, I would drop him off at the office and then go to work myself. But now, he had taken the car without a word. With heavy traffic in the morning and difficulty in finding a taxi, I rushed slowly and managed to arrive at my destination just 5 minutes before the scheduled time. And in all this time, Burton hadn't sent me a single message. I don't want to bring emotions into work, so I switched my phone to silent mode, took a deep breath before entering the booth, and pushed the door open with a smile. But a few seconds later, my smile froze on my face. I never expected to see Ethel and Burton here. The person in charge of the cooperation had no idea what kind of scene this was. She grabbed my hand and warmly introduced me. "This is our new franchisee, Ethel. She happened to be nearby today, so I called her to come and understand the situation together. Sharon, you don't mind, do you? I arrived in this world only after Ethel went abroad. Therefore, she didn't know me and even greeted me with a smile." Then, she giggled and leaned back against Burton. The person in charge looked on with a smile, introducing to me. "That is Ethel's boyfriend and also her investor. Look at how good their relationship is." I clenched my fists, staring at Burton's face. But he didn't dare to look at me, just vaguely denying. "Just an investor." Ethel was not pleased. She clicked her tongue, lightly nudging Burton's chest. "When did my boyfriend wrong you?" Burton's voice became even more vague. "Don't talk nonsense." Chapter 6. I've told Burton many times that I am a person who wants to maintain dignity. I don't want to embarrass him, and I certainly don't want to embarrass myself. So, I tried hard to control my emotions, forcing myself to sit down. But Burton probably felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Almost the moment I sat down, he abruptly stood up, saying there was an urgent matter at the company that he needed to attend to. Ethel pouted unhappily. Didn't we agree you'd accompany me today? It's not urgent at this moment. Burton glanced at me. And I just held onto the cup in front of me, remaining silent. He was then pulled back to his seat by Ethel. The contents of the contract had already been agreed upon with the cooperating party, so today was just to confirm the details. Therefore, it didn't take long. Ethel probably didn't think this was a particularly formal occasion. She chatted with the person in charge while constantly pouring water and serving food to Burton. And to mask the awkwardness, Burton kept his head down, eating. The person in charge marveled. You two have such a great relationship. Ethel blushed and pursed her lips. The person in charge asked again. When are you planning to get married? Ethel hesitated for a moment before saying. Well, I just ended a failed marriage. He said he'll give me some time to recover. Huh? Ethel waved her hand. It's okay, it's all in the past. I was just blind back then, to not choose Burton and instead go for that scumbag. Fortunately, Burton never gave up on me. These past few years abroad, he has been caring for me, sending gifts. Stop talking. Burton abruptly interrupted, almost embarrassed. Ethel smiled knowingly. Getting shy? What's wrong with that? She pinched Burton's blushing ear and continued to say to the person in charge. He also encouraged me to pursue my dreams, helped me apply to schools, paid for my tuition and rent, recommended mentors for me. Anyway, he is the light that shone into my dark life. Chapter 7. The person in charge was almost in tears from listening, but I chuckled lightly. I never expected this. My tone might have been a bit sarcastic, which displeased Ethel as she looked over. Sharon, what are you laughing at? Is it because you don't have a man to care for you, so you can't stand seeing others being cared for? Her words carried a sting, but I accepted them calmly, nodding. Yes, I have no one to care for me, because my husband is too busy caring for other women. Ethel showed pity. But then I chuckled again, looking across the table. Burton, what do you say, is that right? Everyone at the table was clever, and in an instant, they all understood. For a moment, the gazes directed at the three of us became strange. Burton had to speak up. Sharon, things are not as you think. How are they then? It's a long story, I'll explain when I get back, let's not make a scene here, okay? I smiled, my eyes even getting moist from the laughter. That's my husband. I didn't even need to have a serious conversation with him. Because I couldn't find any more excuses for him. The system told me that only around the protagonist can the supporting characters be influenced by the plot. But in these 5 years, with Burton and Ethel oceans apart, he wouldn't be affected by any protagonist aura. His kindness towards Ethel was genuine from start to finish. Chapter 8. I apologized to the person in charge, grabbed my bag, and walked out. The wind outside was strong, blowing back the tears that had welled up in my eyes. Sharon. Burton called out to me in a hurry. I ignored him, but he rushed over, grabbing my sleeve. Be rational, I told you, I'll explain when we get back. Explain what? I suddenly felt very tired in my heart. Is he trying to explain why, even though he has someone he likes, he is desperately begging me to stay in this world? Or why, despite not forgetting about Ethel, he has shown a willingness to die for me in these 5 years? Or perhaps why he lied to me about deleting all contact with Ethel, yet behind my back, he almost contacts her daily. I always thought that no one understood Burton better than I did. But now I realize that I have never truly understood him. Later, Ethel also walked out. She stood on a nearby platform, quietly looking down at me. In her eyes, there was the same pity as before. That feeling of disgust surged up again. I pushed Burton away. I'm going to work first. When I get back tonight, we'll talk about the divorce. Burton wanted to say something, but I waved my hand and hailed a taxi on the side of the road. Chapter 9. That night, I waited until late, and Burton did not come back. He only sent me 2 messages before bed. I'm not coming back tonight, calm down by yourself. I won't divorce you. A lot of things aren't as you think. I love you, and I believe you love me too. Love? I chuckled bitterly, covering my face. The tension that had been building up for so long finally snapped at this moment. So he knew too that I loved him. He knew that I stayed in this world for him, yet he still chose to betray me. But it's a pity, the human brain is not a hard drive. Just by reformatting, all emotions can be erased. I couldn't immediately take back my love for him after knowing the truth. So, I could only toss and turn in bed, tormented by bitterness in the deep night. Perhaps I was too physically and mentally exhausted. When I woke up the next day, I found out I had a fever. I called my assistant and told her I would be resting at home today. After agreeing, she hesitated, apparently having something to say. I don't know if I should tell you, boss, but, well, a colleague took a few photos yesterday. I interrupted her. Send them to me. She let out a sigh of relief and quickly agreed. Soon, my phone vibrated twice. A few photos came through. Chapter 10. In the evening, Burton finally returned under the moonlight. He didn't even notice that I was unwell, just explaining to me. There was some work at the company today, so I came back a bit late. Is it the company's issue, or is it Ethel's issue? I sneered. Burton looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Sharon, how did you become like this now? His voice abruptly stopped. Because I threw the phone at him. On the screen were the few photos my assistant had sent me. Yesterday, when I was feeling almost faint, he was out shopping for home decor with Ethel. Burton cleared his throat, and after a while, he squatted in front of me. Sharon, she doesn't have any friends in the country, and her stepmother doesn't welcome her home, so she had to rent a new place for herself and decorate it. I nodded. But what does this have to do with you? Burton sighed, looking at me as if dealing with an unreasonable child. Ethel grew up with me since we were kids, she's like a sister to me. A few years ago, when she was bullied by that man and had nowhere to go, she turned to me for help. I couldn't just ignore her, could I? Of course, I know it was wrong of me to contact her behind your back, but I really haven't discussed anything inappropriate with her. Sharon, be understanding, once she's settled these days, I won't see her again, okay? After Burton finished speaking, he looked at me expectantly. However, I shook my head directly. No. I am not only a dignified person but also a principled one. In my book, there are only 100 points or 0 points. He used to be worth 100 points in my heart, that's why I respected and loved him. But now, he's down to 0 points. I can't reconcile with a man who's worth 0 points. Listening to this, Burton lost his patience again. Sharon, I've given you an out, why don't you take it? What will you achieve by making a scene? You can't leave anyway. You only have me as family in this world, don't you? Chapter 11. Now, I can finally be sure. Burton wasn't mistaken the last time he spoke. That's how he has always felt in his heart. He thinks I can't leave him, can't leave this world, that's why he acts so recklessly. But he doesn't know. In fact, I have one more chance. That night, without a doubt, we slept in separate beds again. I sat on the bed for a long time, then slowly walked into the bathroom and lay down in the bathtub. The icy water didn't cover my body. I closed my eyes and slowly sank. Almost instantly, water rushed in. I coughed uncontrollably, feeling like a knife was stirring in my lungs, my head throbbing as if it were about to explode. But I remained still. Finally, just before suffocating, a familiar electronic voice sounded in my mind. System host, long time no see. I struggled in the water, coughing violently. The system's voice was calm. Seeking death? Have you thought this through? A straightforward sentence. Only I knew what it meant. The system had told me that those chosen as hosts were people who had done many good deeds in their lifetime but tragically died young. It always showed leniency towards such individuals. So even though I had chosen to stay in this world for Burton's sake, it still left me a way out. I was bound to the system because of death. So, as long as I faced death again, it would come back. But it would only come back this one last time. To confirm, the system asked me again. Due to your previous rule violations, if you want to leave this world again, you must accept punishment. Have you really thought this through? Chapter 12. I lowered my eyelashes and nodded silently. Instead of wasting my life with a hypocritical man here, it was better to go see the scenery of other worlds. As for the punishment, the system had already told me. It was to erase all my memories and send me back into the quick transmigration world. And I had to complete twice as many missions as others to retire. Actually, a long time ago, when I first heard these words, I didn't understand why my memories had to be taken away. The system explained, think about it, if you already have experience making a bench, wouldn't you be more adept at it the second time around? If you once smashed your finger while making a bench, wouldn't you have psychological shadows while making another one? Erasing your memories is not only to deprive you of your experience and punish you but also a form of protection. At that time, I just listened casually. Never did I imagine that one day, I would experience it firsthand. Sensing my despondency, the system added, based on humanitarian principles, I will preserve your memories from your original world. I was surprised by this unexpected joy. Considering that memories couldn't be wiped all at once, as it could damage the brain. The system has made the final decision to give you a month to complete this task. This also gave me enough time to bid farewell to this world. While I still hadn't forgotten too much, over the next few days, I explained things to my assistant every day. As the assistant frantically recorded, she asked me, "Boss, are you going on a long journey? When will you be back?" I fell silent for a moment and then said, "I probably won't be coming back." She visibly froze, and when she realized, her expression turned almost instantly fearful. "You want to sell the company?" I can't do this alone, Why can't you?" I interrupted her. "You managed to leave that remote village where nothing ever happens, how could you not handle a startup company?" The assistant stared at me blankly, her eyes getting redder. After a while, she unwillingly asked me, "Is it because of CEO Burton?" I patted her back but didn't answer. Perhaps as memories were gradually fading, when I mentioned Burton, my feelings weren't as bitter. I even started to seriously recall how determined I was back then to stay in this place for him. Even though the system had warned me long ago that staying for one person would bind me to them. So, if he died, I would die. I considered myself someone who valued life greatly. How did I take that step back then? No matter how hard I thought, I couldn't remember, so I shook my head and stopped torturing myself. Chapter 13. That night, Burton, who had been absent for a few days, finally returned. He pushed the door open, and I was sitting on the couch reading a book. A hint of sweetness wafted over. Curiously, I glanced over and saw him holding a beautifully packaged cake. "Why did you buy this? Is today some important day?" I didn't understand. Burton smirked. "Still pretending? Ethel's house renovation is complete. I told her not to contact me anymore. Sharon, can you give me a good look now?" I didn't answer him, just thinking in my mind. Did his words just now confirm that he had indeed been with Ethel these past few days? Thinking about this, a pang of bitterness struck my heart. It seemed like my memories hadn't been erased enough. "So, you bought a cake to celebrate her moving into a new house?" I asked Burton. He hesitated for a moment, then raised his hands in surrender. "Can you stop being so cryptic? Today is our 5th anniversary, I don't want to argue with you." I just blankly replied, "Oh." Burton finally realized something was wrong. He slowly wiped away his smile, his face turning darker. After a while, I managed to squeeze out a few words from between my teeth. "Sharon, don't tell me you forgot our anniversary?" Indeed, I had forgotten. Burton was furious. He slammed the cake on the table and stormed into the room, slamming the door shut. Chapter 14. In theory, I should have gone to explain. But for some reason, I didn't really feel like being in the same room with him, so I just continued reading my book on the couch. It had started raining outside at some point, and the raindrops were tapping against the windows. Feeling tired, I wrapped myself in a blanket and lay down to rest. After some time had passed, in the fading sound of rain, I suddenly heard a sound indicating that a door had been unlocked. Almost as I sat up, a woman in a thin dress, completely drenched, also looked over at the door. "How come it's you?" we both said in unison. Burton in the room must have heard the commotion and walked out. For a moment, apart from the rain, there was an awkward silence. Ethel was the first to speak, breaking the silence. "I was out with colleagues today, and it suddenly started raining on the way. I thought you guys lived nearby, so I came to borrow an umbrella. I hope I'm not disturbing you?" Ethel kept saying "you guys," but her gaze was fixed on Burton the whole time. The latter clenched his fist and remained silent, his emotions unreadable. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 1:30 in the middle of the night. Quite a time to borrow an umbrella. Seeing Burton still not saying anything, Ethel bit her lip, shivering, turned around, and under her soaked clothes, her slender figure became more apparent. "Do you not have any spare umbrellas? Then forget it," she mumbled. "Wait." Burton hesitated and called out to her. "It's still raining outside, how will you get back?" Before he could finish his sentence, I suddenly noticed a folded umbrella on the shelf nearby. So, I quickly reached up, took it down, and handed it to Ethel. "You can have this one." After a moment's thought, I added, "No need to return it." Chapter 15. Ethel held the umbrella, looking uncertainly at Burton. Unfortunately, Burton wasn't even looking at her at that moment. He was staring at me intensely, as if deeply affected by something. "Sharon, what are you doing? You just casually gave away this umbrella?" he asked, bewildered. I glanced over, puzzled. "Just a regular umbrella, a regular handle. It's not like it's made of gold and silver, so why couldn't it be given away? Besides, didn't he say it was raining outside, so wouldn't it be better for Ethel not to go back? I hand her an umbrella, and he's still angry? Do I have to invite Ethel into the bedroom?" Perhaps my confusion was too obvious, which made Burton even angrier. His eyes were burning red. "You don't remember at all, do you? You forgot everything, you damn well forgot everything." Burton rarely got this worked up. I blinked, afraid that if I said yes, he would come over and strangle me. In a strange atmosphere, Ethel weakly called out Burton again, seemingly trying to divert his attention. "I'm leaving, remember to delete my fingerprint, otherwise." Ethel glanced at me. "Causing you two to quarrel, I feel guilty." Yet Burton was completely engulfed in his own emotions, paying no attention to Ethel. He just stared at me intensely, his chest heaving. After a while, seeing no reaction from me, he suddenly kicked the wall. Then, deliberately squeezing past me, he slammed the bedroom door shut. The living room fell silent once again. That's when the system gently reminded me. "Host, that's the umbrella you used to strike up a conversation with Burton." "What do you mean? It seems like I've lost this memory too. You first met on a rainy day, and you used this umbrella to approach him. It can be said that the importance of this umbrella in your relationship is equivalent to that of Su Xian and Bai Suzhen." I scratched my head. What an example to choose, but I really can't remember. And due to the memory loss, my affection for Burton seemed to have faded a lot. I thought I would be very sad to see Ethel open the door with her fingerprint scanner, and she and Burton were exchanging glances right in front of me. I should have been very upset. But the fact is, this kind of low mood was easily dispelled. Chapter 16. After a half-asleep night, the next day, I was woken up by my phone ringing. Accompanying the ringing was a bold memo that popped up. It said, "Don't forget to go through with the divorce proceedings." I thought hard and realized that I had even more missing memories. I couldn't remember why I absolutely had to divorce Burton. But since I specifically wrote a memo to remind myself, it must be very important. So, when Burton walked out of the room again, I stopped him directly. Do you have time today? Let's go through with the divorce proceedings. Burton's face resembled that of someone frozen in time. If you divorce me, where else can you go? Who else do you know in this world? Without waiting for me to speak, he walked straight to the door, fiddled with it, then looked up at me. Are you angry about this? I've deleted her fingerprint now, can you stop making a scene? I couldn't understand why Burton always thought I was causing trouble. I repeated once more. I really want to divorce you. Burton couldn't take it anymore and stormed out of the room. I sat back on the sofa helplessly and called out to the system. Why did I tell him directly in the first place that I came to this world for him? That's how you completed the task. The system replied succinctly, unwilling to say more. I couldn't help but sigh. Back then, I must not have thought that he would bring this up all the time in the future, right? However, I was somewhat relieved that I didn't reveal the system's secret entirely. I was quite curious about what Burton's reaction would be when my memory was wiped clean and I completely disappeared from this world. Chapter 17. On that day, I had a lawyer draft the divorce agreement and quietly waited for Burton to come back and sign it. However, the wait dragged on until midnight. Burton seemed to have drunk a lot. He stumbled in through the door, muttering, "Go home, go home." Ethel followed closely behind, supporting him firmly. Due to their vastly different sizes, they would occasionally fall into each other's arms because they couldn't stand steadily. I watched quietly, unable to distinguish whether this was real or an act. As time passed, Ethel bumped into me a few times, and she seemed less constrained. She helped Burton sit on the sofa before explaining to me. Burton drank too much today. The bartender called me, so I went to pick him up. Why did the bartender call you? I asked. Ethel tilted her head, a hint of a shy smile on her face. The bartender said he couldn't unlock Burton's phone, so he had to contact the emergency contact. I don't know why Burton set me as the emergency contact. I instinctively covered my heart. But, 1 second, 2 seconds. I didn't feel anything there. However, Ethel noticed my movement. She asked me with a smile that seemed mocking. Sharon, did you know that Burton and I have known each other since childhood? I nodded. He pursued me for many years, did you know that? I nodded again. Many people said he married you when it was time to give his family an explanation. Did you know that? I shook my head. Ethel chuckled. Well, now you know. After a moment of thought, I imitated her tone. Do you know there are cameras in the living room? When Burton sobers up, I can show him the playback, did you know? Ethel froze. She quickly looked up at the ceiling. After confirming that I wasn't lying, her ears quickly turned red. I wanted to say something, but she had already let go of Burton and awkwardly left through the door. Apparently, she was used to appearing as a delicate white flower in front of others and didn't want Burton to see her aggressive side. Chapter 18. After Ethel left, the empty room only had Burton and me left. I stared at him for a while, involuntarily covering my mouth and nose. Love is truly magical, it's like the most perfect filter in the world. In the past, I loved Burton and willingly took care of him. But after the filter shattered along with my memories, looking at the drunken man in front of me only made me feel repulsed. I didn't want to clean up the mess at all. Where Ethel left him, he would be in the same position when he woke up in pain in the middle of the night. However, he should be thankful that I wasn't a deep sleeper. When I heard his cries for help, I quickly called an ambulance for him. In the emergency room, Burton was in too much pain to stand steadily, so I had to fill out his hospital information for him. I wrote down my own phone number, then turned to ask Burton. Do you have the strength? He lifted his eyelids to look at me. Report your own phone number. In that moment, I saw a freeze-frame-like pause on Burton's face. Clutching his stomach, he incredulously asked me. You don't remember my phone number? Should I remember it? Burton choked up. I urged him again, and he weakly recited his number. Perhaps pain makes people vulnerable. That night, Burton's eyes remained red. I didn't have the energy to deal with him because I was too exhausted. However, every time I dozed off and woke up abruptly, looking up at Burton, he was always staring at me without blinking. After several times in a row, I couldn't bear it anymore and asked him, "Do you have something to say?" He hesitated for a moment, seemed reluctant, but eventually convinced himself. "Sharon, I started drinking because you mentioned divorce. But I feel like, you really want to leave me, you don't love me like you used to." I wanted to tell him that it's not like, it's true. My memories were diminishing equally, I was almost forgetting the way back home, so how could I clearly remember the process of falling in love with him? But I didn't want to tell him these things. Because he was no longer the person I was willing to share secrets with. Chapter 19. To change the subject, I volunteered to go buy breakfast for Burton. Considering that plain rice porridge was too bland, I kindly added 2 side dishes for him. But the moment I lifted the lid, Burton's eyelashes started to tremble. He looked at me in disbelief, his voice seemed to be squeezed out from deep within his throat. "Sharon, did you forget that I don't eat celery and shrimp? You're picky?" Burton didn't answer, but his eyelids started to flutter. I quickly asked the system. "What's going on? The last time you were here at this hospital with him was because he had an allergic reaction to shrimp, almost going into shock." But that segment was completely absent from my memory. I had to pack the meal back up. Perhaps I didn't have any intention of teasing him, but Burton finally became flustered. "Sharon, what's been going on with you lately? Have you not been resting well?" I quickly made an excuse. "Maybe I've been staying up too late recently. How about this, I'll go back to get some rest first, and come back later to see you?" Burton nodded repeatedly, even pushing me lightly. Yes, you should rest." As I was about to leave, the nurse reminded me to keep my phone line open. After some thought, I couldn't help but add, "If you can't reach me, you can also contact the emergency contact in his phone." Burton's expression changed as if he had been burned, nervously dropping his gaze. Taking advantage of the moment, I briskly walked out of the room. It was still early, so I wasn't in a rush to go back home, just leisurely strolling around the streets. Thinking that I would soon leave this world, I visited 2 very beautiful places from my memories. After enjoying the scenery and returning home, the sky outside had already darkened. I was humming a song, about to unlock the door, when it suddenly opened from the inside. Before I could react, Burton anxiously pulled me into his arms. "Where did you go, Sharon?" Chapter 20. I had never heard him sound so anxious before, feeling inexplicably puzzled. It took a lot of effort to break free from his embrace. "Aren't you supposed to stay in the hospital for a day? After you left, I felt particularly uneasy." Burton looked at me with a pale face. I couldn't stand being there for even a minute. I didn't know how the old me would have reacted to hearing such words. But after waiting for a while, there was no ripple in my heart at all. Seemingly realizing something, Burton quickly took out his phone. "Sharon, I'm sorry. That emergency contact was set up years ago, I forgot to remove it. I just changed it to yours, please don't be mad, okay? You'd better not change it back." I blurted out. After all, I would soon disappear from this world. When the time comes, even if he wants to contact me, he won't be able to. But Burton might have thought I was speaking in riddles. He raised his hand and swore directly, guaranteeing that he would no longer have any dealings with Ethel. I sighed lightly. There's nothing wrong if the leading lady and the second male lead have some connection. What? Burton didn't hear clearly. I shook my head. Forget what I said. I tried to bypass him to enter the room, but his expression became more and more panicked. Say anything to me, Sharon, don't be so indifferent, don't be so light-hearted, I'm really scared when you act like this. I froze in my steps, looking up at him. It wasn't that I wanted to remain calm, but the things I could remember were really few and far between. Without memories, where would emotions come from? Chapter 21. Burton and I stood off for a while, but in the end, he had to step aside to let me pass. I remembered the divorce agreement was already printed out, just waiting for his signature. But I couldn't recall where I had put it, so I had to search through each room, each drawer. Burton stayed by my side the whole time. He didn't know what I was doing and even kindly poured me a glass of water. But that glass was clearly his. With so many missing memories, Burton was now just a slightly familiar stranger to me. I simply did not want to use the same glass as him. So I refused directly. But it also reminded me that I really needed to drink some water. I walked to the living room, poured myself a glass of water, and drank it all in one go. As I went to put the glass back, I suddenly heard a heavy object fall behind me. Turning around, I saw Burton staring at me with red eyes, surrounded by broken pieces on the floor. "Sharon, do you really despise me this much?" I looked at him in confusion, thought for a moment, and called out to the system. "I just didn't use his glass to drink water, why does he look at me so hurt?" From my analysis, he is afraid of losing you and feels that this situation is spiraling out of control. I was even more confused. Afraid of losing me? Yes, because in his mind, the world revolves around you loving him unconditionally and exclusively. Your existence is solely for him. I see. But how could I possibly exist for someone else? Shaking my head, Burton's thoughts were too unrealistic. Chapter 22. However, after this little incident, I couldn't remember at all what I was looking for just now. The system erased memories so randomly. I silently finished eating an orange, then an apple, still clueless. I decided to wash up and go to sleep. Burton followed me closely. Until I walked into the bedroom. I instinctively tried to close the door, but Burton's hand squeezed in through the crack. I didn't control my strength well, and his arm instantly swelled up. "What are you doing? Haven't we agreed that our Cold War can't last more than 3 days, we must talk it out and make up?" Burton looked at me pitifully. I looked down and only touched upon a vast blank. "Sorry, I don't remember." Taking advantage of Burton's momentary confusion, I immediately pushed his hand out and slammed the door shut heavily in his face. The sound of the latch clicking shut was clear. When Burton snapped out of it, he started banging on the door vigorously. "Sharon, why are you treating me like this?" I didn't answer, and he continued to knock on the door incessantly. It was too noisy, so I simply covered myself with a blanket. Chapter 23. I was just falling into a deep sleep when suddenly an arm draped over me. My drowsiness vanished almost instantly, and just as I was about to elbow backward, Burton tightly hugged me. "Sharon, are you sick? Shall I take you to the doctor tomorrow?" "What nonsense, I'm fine, get off me." However, Burton only held on to me tighter upon hearing that. "Sharon, I don't know if you genuinely forgot a lot of things or if you're doing this on purpose. I hope it's intentional, at least then, I have a chance to make amends. I know I've wronged you these few times, but if it wasn't for Ethel returning, I wouldn't have been able to think clearly. I stopped liking her a long time ago, my heart has been with you. Nobody can take that away from you." As Burton spoke, he even choked up a bit. But I repeated my previous move, took advantage of his loosened grip, and quickly pushed my elbow back, forcefully pushing him off the bed. What a joke, with my memory all over the place like a jumbled mess, how could I possibly have feelings for him? No matter what he said, I couldn't possibly sleep with him. I reached for the bedside table, wanting to turn on the lamp. At that moment, my fingertips suddenly touched the corner of a folder. I quickly pressed the switch, remembering that this was what I was looking for before going to sleep. Once the room was bright as day, I pulled out paper and a pen from the folder and pushed it towards Burton without hesitation. "Here, sign this." After he read the contents, his face turned deathly pale in an instant. "Sharon, I've explained everything to you, why?" Burton couldn't continue. His lips were trembling slightly, and his hands were shaking uncontrollably. I didn't understand his reaction at all. Before I could say anything, he stumbled and almost ran out like he was fleeing. "I won't sign it." Chapter 24. In the following days, Burton's visits home became more and more frequent. I thought he might have noticed something, so I tried to keep my words and actions to a minimum. On this particular day, he, as usual, bought a bunch of things for me. But I couldn't even be bothered to unwrap them, knowing I couldn't take them with me anyway. At first, Burton eagerly awaited my reaction to the gifts. Suddenly, however, he clutched his stomach, his expression contorted in pain as he collapsed to the floor. "What's wrong? Quick, take me to the hospital." Burton weakly reached out his hand towards me. I went to the basement to get the car and helped him into it. But my mind was blank, I had no idea where the hospital was. Seemingly realizing this, Burton gritted his teeth and entered the hospital's address into the navigation system himself. As the car sped towards the hospital, Burton's pained expression gradually faded. I couldn't help but feel suspicious. When we arrived, I was about to assist him, but he beat me to it, guiding me towards a corner and waving his hand. "Assistant Smith, over here." The man hurried over and informed Burton that everything was ready, just waiting for the lady to arrive. Burton nodded, letting him assist me. It finally dawned on me. "You faked being sick?" Burton nodded, showing no sign of guilt. "I was too worried, Sharon, but you wouldn't come to me, so I had to resort to this." His last resort was to take me to see a doctor and get some scans. But their methods were beyond what they could uncover. After taking me around, all they got was an answer of, "Everything is fine." Assistant Smith tactfully interjected. "Chairman Burton, you can rest assured now, right?" However, Burton remained silent. He held onto me tightly, his gaze becoming more complex. The ride back home was eerily silent. It wasn't until we were almost home that Burton suddenly said, "You've stayed in this world for me, the system has long abandoned you, you only have me in this world, right?" Though the words were similar to what he had said before, this time, there was no longer the same certainty and assurance in his tone. I nodded absent-mindedly. Yes, yes, yes. Chapter 25. As my memories faded more and more, my forgetfulness worsened. To find things, I often held onto the surveillance footage, constantly replaying it. One day, as I was looking for my slippers, Ethel's voice suddenly came through the screen, sounding cheerful. "Did you know that Burton and I grew up together? He pursued me for many years, did you know? Many people said he married you because it was time and he had to give his family an explanation, did you know?" Burton's expression grew increasingly grim. These days, he was acting recklessly, like a desperate man seeking a cure. If the neurologist couldn't find any issues, he would take me to see various psychologists. Until one doctor told him, the patient may have experienced a negative stimulus, causing a self-protective mechanism to kick in, actively forgetting these things. In an instant, Burton recalled these words. He quickly called Ethel over. She hadn't seen him in a long time and blushed upon arrival. "Burton, did you need something from me?" She was expectant, bashful, but Burton grabbed her by the hair and dragged her in front of me. "Apologize." Ethel cried out in pain, unable to believe it. "Why are you treating me like this for her? No, why should I apologize?" With a stern face, Burton replayed the video. Ethel's face turned red and white alternately. "But everyone really does say that." "Then I'll tell you now, I love Sharon, and I married her. As for what you said about me liking you, pursuing you, those were all things of the past and are the things I regret the most now." Burton finished speaking in one breath, leaving Ethel almost collapsing. She steadied herself against the wall, tears slowly welling up in her eyes. I watched her cry in front of me, feeling bewildered. To be honest, my impression of this woman was minimal, I didn't need any apology from her. This was just Burton being overly sentimental. But Burton refused to let it go, and Ethel could only glare at me with resentment, reluctantly muttering an apology. Then, wiping away her tears, she left in a hurry. Burton paid her no mind, simply bending down and asking me as if coaxing a child. "Sharon," she apologized, "are you feeling happier now? Can you remember some things?" I remained silent for a moment, then asked him. "Have you ever thought that maybe I wasn't because of?" "Stop, Sharon. Burton cut me off. In that moment, his expression could even be described as fearful. Yet, in my limited memories, a scene suddenly incongruously surfaced. At that time, he was also saying to me, "Stop." But what followed was, "Stop making a scene. Stop causing trouble, Sharon." Chapter 26. Perhaps the system was right. Burton just didn't want to lose me, but he felt helpless as this was happening. He didn't know how to keep the water that was constantly slipping through his fingers. He could only deceive himself, telling himself that it was okay, the water would come back. He started going through our old photos, slowly reminiscing with me. He even found the video of our wedding. In the video, both of us tightly held hands, listened to the long prayer by the pastor, embraced each other, and said, "I do." Tears welled up in Burton's eyes. But I was watching like I was watching a movie, completely unaffected, no emotional response. I even earnestly asked Burton, "Why did I marry you in the first place?" He trembled all over, unable to meet my eyes. The silence in the air lingered for too long. Thinking I wouldn't get an answer, he finally spoke, hesitantly. "Because I saved you, I need you, I promised you that no one will love you more than me." Really? I racked my brain but couldn't think of anything else to ask him, so I just said, "Have you lived up to that promise?" Burton trembled again. He covered his face, not saying another word. Time passed like water flowing. A month seems neither long nor short. Considering how terrifying it was to disappear out of thin air, with only 3 days left until the deadline the system mentioned, I went alone to climb a mountain. Forgetting everything in the beautiful scenery, it shouldn't be too bad, right? To avoid being traced, I didn't even bring my phone. At first, I was still thinking, after I disappear, will Burton end up with Ethel? But later, my memories were like sand in a funnel, and by the time I stood at the top of the mountain, I had already forgotten why I was there. I asked the system, "Where is this?" It replied, "Just an insignificant little world." I nodded thoughtfully. The system continued, "Before sending you to the next world, you have to answer a test question. If, while completing the mission, you develop feelings for a certain NPC." "That's impossible." I interrupted, feeling strangely resistant. "What if he really moves you?" Instinctively, I shook my head. Instant emotions will eventually turn into shackles, locking up my freedom and soul. The system's voice remained calm and flat, but for some reason, I sensed a hint of amusement in it. "Memories may be lost, but people grow, even the answers are different now." What? I didn't understand. The system remained silent. At this moment, the rosy light spread from the horizon, painting the clouds in the sky a golden hue. Even as I was being pulled by the hem of my clothes, dragged into the next vortex of time and space, I kept thinking, as long as I complete the mission of retirement, plenty of rewards are waiting for me. I wouldn't pick up sesame seeds just to lose watermelon. End of main text.
Extra. Burton had already forgotten how he had spent this year. After Sharon's disappearance, he developed a severe case of insomnia. He was the only one in the world who knew where Sharon was most likely to be, but he refused to accept it. He had no more interest in working and almost spent all his money on search teams, seeking that faint glimmer of possibility. Until a teen discovered a backpack under a cliff in the desolate mountains. Inside the pack were a few compressed biscuits and a half-drunk bottle of mineral water. A few days later, technicians informed Burton. They had conducted DNA tests, and indeed, it was Sharon's belongings. This incident caused a stir in the city, and naturally, Ethel heard about it too. She gathered the courage to approach Burton once more and expressed her feelings again. "Burton, the dead cannot come back to life, it's all fate. Marry me, I will take care of you, heal you." Burton looked at her with a heavy gaze, but Ethel didn't realize the severity of the situation. Just like before, she adjusted her hair, revealing her most attractive half-face. "Don't worry about anything, now that the police have determined Sharon's death, you are considered a widower in the eyes of the law, which means you are unmarried. We can directly proceed with the formalities. Before she could finish speaking, Burton pounced on her. Ethel opened her arms in surprise. But the next moment, Burton gripped her neck tightly. He refused to even sign the divorce papers. How dare this despicable person say such things? That day was just chaotic. If it hadn't been for Assistant Smith's appearance, Ethel would have been choked to death on the spot. But he arrived too late. Burton's actions were too severe. Although Ethel was saved, her windpipe and food pipe were damaged. From then on, breathing and swallowing became extremely difficult. Burton showed no remorse. Not only that, he turned the money he had spent on Ethel into a bill. He told her, either pay back the money or go to jail. Ethel was terrified. Later, someone came up with the idea to have her accuse Burton of intentionally hurting her. And that's how Burton ended up behind bars. But he still refused to let Ethel off the hook, continuing to instruct his lawyer to sue her, making sure Ethel never had it easy. Years later, everything changed. Burton came out battered and bruised, his company had long gone bankrupt, and his house had been forcibly handed over to business partners. Life is like a dream, and now, all he has left is a body riddled with pain. He finally accepted reality, understanding that the person who loved him the most in this world had completely vanished. Sharon's assistant, on the other hand, managed to keep her legacy alive and thriving. It was said that after his release, he even sent a notebook. Besides some meeting notes, it also contained Sharon's personal writings. As Burton read those words of gradual disappointment towards himself, he felt almost suffocated with discomfort. Placing the notebook on his knee to take a breather, the wind suddenly blew the pages open. Burton suddenly noticed a beautiful line written in a small corner. "While I'm still alive and kicking, no one is allowed to extinguish me." What was Sharon thinking at that time? He would never have the chance to find out.